Today we're going to talk about the 6th episode from Surah Al-Imran. Actually, the discussion starts at verse 51, where it says, "Indeed, Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship Him. This is the straight path." Here, the one speaking in this verse, the speaker is Jesus, and the people He's addressing are the Jews. He tells them, Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship Him. Al-Sadi, one of the scholars, says that this verse was revealed in response to the Christians, or as he put it, the Nazarenes, those who claim that Jesus, or Isa, is God or the Son of God. I came down to answer them. All right, 52. So when Jesus sensed disbelief from them, he said, "Who are my supporters for the sake of Allah?" The disciples said, "We are Allah's supporters. We believe in Allah and bear witness that we are Muslims." All right, here's the truth. What does the verse mean? What is its meaning? It means that God commanded Jesus to call the children of Israel to believe in the Torah. All right. So what happened? What was their rejection or their reaction? First, they called him a sorcerer, and second, they plotted to kill him, and third, they banished him and his mother from the entire town. All right. So the important thing is, after they banished him, he and his mother Mary left, and he saw a group of 12 men fishing. This group is called the disciples or the apostles. So he said to them, "What do you think about coming with me to call people to the Torah and to fish for people to believe in the Torah instead of fishing for fish?" They asked him, "Who are you?" He told them, "I am Jesus, son of Mary." They said to him, "We're with you, we believe in you," meaning we support you. Well, not that we believe in you. We support you, and they set out with him. Who told the story? Turtubi and Al-Baghawi are the ones who said this. They said that the meaning here in this verse, that's exactly it. I don't want to repeat myself, let's save some time. The part about "and bear witness that we are Muslims," that's the real point. Al-Tabari says something really strange about it. He says that the phrase "and bear witness that we are Muslims" means that Jesus and Abraham before him were both sent with Islam and not with Judaism or Christianity. Just imagine and pay attention. Here, the real question is, how were Jesus and Abraham sent with Islam? About 500 years before the Prophet was even sent. The Prophet was sent about 500 or 600 years after Jesus. So the statements kind of contradict each other. Anyway, that's one issue. How could they have been sent with Islam 500 years before Muhammad was sent with Islam? That's number one. Number two, the Prophet Muhammad himself, up until the age of 25, was a Christian and got married, or he was a Nazarene and married Khadijah in a church ceremony. And when he was sent with Islam, he continued to follow those teachings. He remained committed, attached, and devoted, let's choose the right word. He remained committed to the church marriage with Khadijah for 10 years after he was sent as a prophet. So what do you think about that? So you tell me that Jesus and Abraham were sent with Islam, and the very founder of Islam, the messenger of Islam himself, was a Christian until the age of 25 and got married in a church ceremony. How does that make sense? I don't get it. Anyway, still, another point that is, how does that work? How do the disciples bear witness to Jesus? They told him, and now they're bearing witness that they're Muslims. How can they testify that they're Muslims when they originally joined him to call people to the Torah? He told them, he said, "Come, let's call people to believe in the Torah. Leave fishing behind and let's fish for people who will believe in the Torah." So they're the ones telling him, "Bear witness that we are Muslims." Honestly, it just doesn't add up in my mind unless someone has an explanation or clarification for it. Anyway, honestly, the last point about this verse, the word feel disbelief. You can't really feel disbelief because disbelief isn't an emotion. It's a belief system. There's a difference between feelings of hate and love. I mean, I can feel or sense that you hate me or love me, but I can't really feel that you're a disbeliever or a believer or a Christian. That's why we say the Quran is a special case. This is the point. I mean about the word feel, because here the scholars say it means to know or to recognize. Well, it's possible that God could have said, or that the Quran could have said, what could have said when he knew their disbelief, or when he realized their disbelief, or when he understood their disbelief. I mean, you could use 100 different words. But what does it mean for us? We can't really say, why did he say feel? Really isn't possible. That's why we say again that the Quran is a special case. You can't treat its words like regular Arabic words. You just can't. 53. Our Lord, we have believed in what you revealed and have followed the messenger, so register us among the witnesses. We have believed in what you have revealed. This means that the disciples are saying, we have believed in Jesus and the gospel. Oh Lord, we have believed in Jesus and the gospel. It's clear. All right. The point here is, so write us among the witnesses. Do you know who the scholars say these witnesses are? They say it's the nation of Muhammad. But how? Who exactly are they? Which scholars said that the witnesses are the nation of Muhammad. That's Al-Qurtubi, Ibn Kathir, and Al-Baghawi. But, believer, the nation of Muhammad hadn't even appeared yet. There were still 500 years to go. So how could it be that the disciples are saying, write us among the witnesses, meaning the nation of Muhammad? And there's a 500-year gap between them and those witnesses. How could the disciples know the unseen? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Honestly, personally, don't understand. For myself, I admit to you my ignorance about this whole write us among the witnesses thing and what they said before it. And bear witness that we are Muslims. I testify once that we are Muslims. Another time it's write us among the witnesses. Muslims will tell you that this means Islam. They mean that Jesus and Abraham were sent with the religion of Islam. And then after that it says, write us among the witnesses. The witnesses are the nation of Muhammad. Who are you talking about? That nation wouldn't appear another 500 years. And the one who was sent was actually the Messiah, not the Prophet Muhammad. Anyway, 54. And they plotted, and God is the best of plotters. The truth is, the first point in this verse is that when the children of Israel wanted to kill Jesus, or Isa, or the Messiah, call him whatever you want, it means that God raised him up to himself. God raised Jesus Christ up to himself, exactly. And before he raised him, he cast his likeness. He made someone else look like Jesus. So the Jews thought that this other person was Jesus. So they took him, killed him, and crucified him. And here, honestly, I have a set of questions, actually. So here we have three scenarios. The first is when the Jews wanted to kill Jesus. All right, that's clear. God cast the likeness of Jesus onto a person who was with Jesus, then raised Jesus up to himself and left that person for the Jews. So they killed and crucified him because he looked just like Jesus. Give me one. So who did that? Who raised him and cast the likeness onto another person instead of Jesus? God. Give me one. Two. When the Israelites surrounded Jesus and his disciples, the 19 or 12 who were with him, they besieged them in a house. All right, that's the situation. So Jesus said to his companions, this is the second scenario, pay attention. He said to his companions, who will take my likeness, be killed in my place, and then enter paradise with me? One of them said, I will. Jesus told him, rely on God. God then gave the man the likeness of Jesus and raised Jesus up. And the Jews took that man, killed him, and crucified him. That's the second scenario. Now, the third scenario. All right. The third scenario is actually the same as the second one. That the victim himself agreed to take on the likeness of Jesus. He agreed to it so he could enter paradise. Very nice. In the third scenario, there was a disciple of Jesus who betrayed him and told the Jews, come, I'll show you where he is. So he took them and led them to his location. Jesus said to them, I will hit him and kiss him so that you will know that it is him and kill him. They said, all right, that's fine. You did a good thing. How much will you give me? They answered him. They told him 30 dirhams. They gave him the 30 dirhams and he led them to him. They went to my uncle Isa. All right. He hugged him, so they recognized him. As soon as he hugged him, God made him look like Jesus. What does that mean? God cast the likeness of Jesus onto that man, that traitor, the traitor disciple, exactly. So the Jews thought they took him, killed him, and crucified him, right? My question here is, what was the fault of the man on whom God cast the likeness of Jesus and whom the Jews killed and crucified? What was his sin? Wasn't God able to raise Jesus up without casting his likeness onto another person so that the Jews would take him, crucify him, and kill him? I mean, they killed him and crucified him. What's the wisdom behind that? I mean, what's the point here? Wasn't God able to just swallow up those Jews, to make the earth swallow them? Was he in a tight spot or something? Like, hurry up, make someone look like Jesus, raise Jesus up and hand the other guy over to them to be killed by hand. Someone over like that. Honestly, I just can't understand this at all. No matter what. Honestly, that's a point. I mean, what was the fault of the victim? That's one point. The second point. Look, all the scholars I researched never mentioned the name of the lookalike whom God made resemble Jesus and who was killed and crucified. This is supposed to be a historical story, right? So-and-so announces that it did not happen. That never happened. There isn't a single source that mentions the name of the person who took on the killing and crucifixion instead of Jesus. Just imagine that. All right, the next point is that honestly, linking God's cunning to human cunning actually confirms the similarity between the two kinds of cunning. And then we want to know God is the best of the schemers. So which schemers? The Jewish schemers? Or are there other gods? God is the best among them, meaning he's the most cunning of them all. Honestly, I just don't get it. I mean, they say to you, and they schemed, and God schemed, and God is the best of schemers. So of the schemers, he's the best one. I just want to understand, is it humans or other gods? That was one point. All right, anyway, here, of course, honestly, this is the last point about this story. But so I don't take up too much of your time, God's involvement, and this is the most critical point. Honestly, the thing that occupied my mind the most, aside from the sacrifice and aside from the question of who it is, who are the ones that God is considered the most cunning among them? Are they the Jews or other gods or what exactly? The most dangerous point in this matter is God's involvement in the event, in time, place, and action. That is, God casts the resemblance and God removes it. And in a specific place, at a specific time, and with specific people, the Jews, the apostles, and Jesus, the likeness is negated in any way. That way, God's eternality is negated. God is eternal. God is absolute. God does not enter into time or place or action or event. 55. When God said, "O Jesus, I will take you and raise you up to me and purify you from those who disbelieved, and make those who follow you above those who disbelieve until the day of resurrection. And I will make those who follow you superior to those who disbelieve until the day of judgment. Then to me is your return, and I will judge between you regarding what you used to differ about." Who is speaking about God here? It's Jesus, right? What is he saying? When God said, "O Jesus," it means God will say. And when God said, "Oh Jesus," okay, he will say it. If we say, "Oh Jesus," that's normal, right? We already mentioned before that when God wants to speak about himself, he speaks about himself directly. He says, "Indeed, I am God. There is no deity except me." Isn't that right? We mentioned this before. I can't remember the exact verse number, honestly. So here, when it says, "when God said," it means that someone is talking about God, naturally, and also talking about Jesus, narrating about both of them. God said to Jesus, "I will take you to me and raise you up." The raising up that we talked about in the previous verse, and they plotted and God plotted. Anyway, that's the first point. Who is the speaker? The second point. What's the wisdom behind repeating "those who disbelieved" twice? I mean, what is he saying? When God said, "I will raise you up to me and purify you from those who disbelieved." Yes, and "I will make those who follow you above those who disbelieved," above them. The Quran always tends toward eloquence and brevity, because brevity is a form of eloquence. What's the wisdom in repeating the phrase "those who disbelieved" here? That's the third point. "I will raise you up to me and purify you" means saving you from those who disbelieved, who are the Jews, meaning those who wanted to break in and kill him. As we said before, God's intervention in this event happened at its specific time, place, and circumstances. That is casting a resemblance and raising him up. This is a manifestation of God's action. So everything is perfectly arranged. The next point is that the word "may you die" has two meanings. The first opinion says that wafat here means sleep, and the second opinion says that wafat means death. Those who say it means sleep, like al-Baghawi, use verse 60 from Surah Al-An'am as evidence, which says, "He is the one who takes your souls by night," meaning he makes you sleep at night. All right. Ibn Kathir, in Surah As-Sajda verse 11, says no, wafat here means death. And he uses verse 11 from As-Sajda as evidence. He says, "Say, the angel of death will take you." So here, since it's the angel of death who will take you, it means that the one who took you and raised you up means that he will kill you and not let you sleep. "I will make you die and raise you up to me. Then I will knit you there." That's the idea, basically. That's the truth. The last point maybe about this verse is that there are three perspectives on the subject of Jesus Christ in general. There's a perspective that says he is God. That's the Christian view, and it deserves full respect. There's another perspective that says he is a prophet, and that's the Muslim view. And that perspective also deserves full respect. There's a third perspective that says Jesus Christ basically doesn't exist, that he's a fictional character who never existed in history at all. And that's Raphael Lataster's view. That's him. He's a professor of religious studies at the University of Sydney in Australia. And there are many others like him. I'm just mentioning him as an example, since that's not really the main focus of our discussion. We have other verses we want to talk about, but I would like to make a quick point that there are those who consider Jesus Christ to be a fictional character and not based on any historical evidence. There's no historical evidence for his existence. Historical evidence, not religious. I'm talking about non-religious evidence. You get it, right? Yeah. And then this man and others, just to be clear, him and others say that the Gospels were compiled, or rather written, let's not say compiled, because they weren't like the Quran. They were written 60 years after the death of Jesus. I mean, the Quran was compiled 12 years after the Prophet's death. But the Gospels were written 60 years after the death of Jesus. And who wrote them? The ones who wrote them were basically the group that was around him. The group that was around him. They were a simple group, simple people who couldn't read or write, like fishermen or carpenters, and blacksmiths like John and Luke and so on. So they supposedly wrote the Gospels in Greek in a way that only a university academic could write. So how did they do that? So they tell you that all of this, they're the ones saying this. I never said that Jesus is God, nor did I say he was a prophet, nor did I say, I'm just conveying what people say about him. Even the collection of the Gospels themselves the writing of the Gospels themselves happened 60 years after the death of Jesus. And a group of simple people claimed that they were the ones who wrote them. This really raises a lot of doubts about the subject of the Gospels and the whole issue of Jesus. Jesus himself, by the way, that wasn't even a name. It was a title like emperor, king, or pasha. Things like that. It was just a title. Jesus was dead in his days, by the way. But anyway, fine, whatever. 56. As for those who disbelieve, I will punish them severely in this world and the hereafter, and they will have no helpers. Here, honestly, this verse, 56, is it an addition to verse 55? Because if it is an addition, then the speech about God would be in the third person. But if it's separate and independent, then God would be speaking about himself in the present tense. You see, it makes a difference. He says, so I will punish them. God, that's the issue. You get what I mean? As for those who disbelieve, I will punish them severely in this world and the hereafter, and they will have no helpers. All right. Here is the truth. Honestly, the scholars say something really strange here. That is, according to Qurtubi and Tabari, he's talking about the punishment of those who disbelieve. So what is he saying? As for those who disbelieve, I will punish them severely in this world and the hereafter. So what's the scholar's interpretation? This part tells you that their account in this world is killing, crucifixion, captivity, and tribute. Those for killing, crucifixion, captivity, and jizya. That's their reckoning in this world. In the hereafter, they'll be burned in the fire. That's for those who disbelieve. All right, very good. The question here is, will God punish the disbelievers twice? Will they be killed and crucified again, killing, crucifixion, captivity, and jizya? And then in the end, they're burned? So who's saying this? The ones who say this opinion are Al-Qurtubi and Al-Tabari, and these are two of the pillars among the commentators or jurists in Islamic tradition. All right, 57. But as for those who believe and do righteous deeds, he will give them their rewards in full, and God does not love the wrongdoers. So here, he will give them and does not love. That's also a third-person pronoun. Someone is talking about God here. It's clear. As for those who believe and do righteous deeds, he, meaning God, will give them their rewards. So who is speaking here? Exactly? And then, God does not love the wrongdoers. Does God love and hate? Of course, every time this comes up, I'll repeat the question. I have no problem with that. Does God love and hate? God does not love the wrongdoers. God loves them, and he loves and hates. So, here, what's the difference between the disbelievers and the wrongdoers? The wrongdoers, God does not love the wrongdoers. But as for the disbelievers, there's killing, crucifixion, captivity, and paying the jizya. That's in this world. In the afterlife, it's burning in the fire. That's the difference between a disbeliever and a wrongdoer in the Quran. Okay. 58. That's it, we're almost done. That is what we recite to you of the verses, and the wise reminder. It means that we, God, are reciting to you, O Muhammad, through the words of Gabriel. These stories, that is, specifically about Jesus, John, Mary, Zechariah, the Jews, and the disciples. In other words, that is, in essence, the underlying meaning of the words. Of course, the word verses here doesn't mean verses of the Quran. That is what we recite to you of the verses means the lessons that we recite to you, these are lessons. Here, the reminder means the Quran. So what we recite to you are the lessons. And the wise reminder, which is the Quran. K. 59. The example of Jesus to God is like that of Adam. He created him from dust, then said to him, be, and he was. The reason for the revelation here is that the delegation of the Christians of Najran, whom we talked about at the beginning of the video, on Surah Aali-Imran, said to the Prophet, how can you say that Jesus is the servant of God, his word, and his spirit, when he is actually God himself? They said that God descended from his high place into the womb of Mary, then came out of her, and then showed us his power, the power to bring the dead back to life. And this, according to the Quran itself, happened, meaning he brought the dead back to life, healed the blind, and created a bird out of clay, then breathed into it, and it became a real bird, exactly as described. So they asked him, have you ever seen a human being before who was born without a father? He is God himself. God descended and took on his form. He entered Mary's womb. Jesus was born, just so you know. This is what they say. I'm just telling you their words, and I'll tell you who exactly is saying this. Anyway, the Prophet stayed silent when they asked him. This was the story of the delegation from Najran's Christians. When they asked him, how can you say that? Have you ever seen anyone before who was born without a father? He showed us his power. He brought the dead back to life and all that. So he stayed completely silent until they asked, who? Gabriel. Exactly. So what did Gabriel say to him? He told him, those who say that the Messiah, the son of Mary, is God have committed disbelief. He told him twice. Where? In Al-Ma'idah, verse 17, and Al-Ma'idah, verse 72. Exactly. Keep in mind, it's the same situation. It's the same situation. 2 verses from Al-Ma'idah and a verse from Aali-Imran in the same situation. I don't know why they weren't put together. I mean, since it's the same conversation between the Christians of Najran and the Prophet, but I really don't know. Anyway, so the Prophet said, he was telling Gabriel, he said, they asked me about the example of Jesus. He told him, the example of Jesus to God is like that of Adam. He created him from dust. Then he said to him, be, and he was, which is verse 59 of Aali-Imran. So once, pay attention, focus here. The Jews asked the Prophet Muhammad, saying, have you ever seen a human being without a father before? He stayed silent until Gabriel came to him and said, those who say that God is the Messiah, son of Mary, have certainly disbelieved. This happened twice in Al-Ma'idah, so pay attention to the FA, so / then, that I'm mentioning here. So, I mean, in the same situation, in the same conversation, right? So Gabriel said to me, the Prophet Muhammad said to Gabriel, he said, but they asked me about the example of Jesus. So Gabriel replied, in the same situation and in the same conversation, and said to him, the example of Jesus to God is like that of Adam. He created him from dust. Then he said to him, be, and it is. This part was mentioned in 59 of Aali-Imran, while the 2 previous ones were placed in 17 and 72 of Al-Ma'idah. How do I not know this? All right, let me continue and tell you who said this. So when the Jews came back the next day, after that conversation between Gabriel and the Prophet Muhammad, he recited 2 verses to them. He recited a verse or the 2 verses from Al-Ma'idah. The verse is in Aali-Imran. Okay, so when the Jews returned to the Prophet Muhammad, he read these verses to them. All right, so who said this? Then Al-Tabari and Al-Qurtubi, you can refer to their exact wording. I hope I made it clear that it was a single conversation, in a single context, at a single time, when it was revealed. There were 2 questions. The first question, 2 verses were revealed about it in Surah Al-Ma'idah. The second question, a verse was revealed about it in Surah Aali-Imran, which is verse 59, the one we're talking about now. I think it's 59. Yeah, that's right. And the two verses from Aali-Imran, the two verses from Al-Ma'idah are 17 and 72. That's clear. So a question is answered in a single conversation. A question is answered by two verses that were revealed in Al-Ma'idah. And another question in the same conversation is answered by a verse in Surah Aali-Imran. That's completely clear. Verse 60 says, "The truth is from your Lord, so do not be among the doubters." Honestly, God is saying to the Prophet Muhammad, the truth is from your Lord, so do not be among the doubters. Honestly, I don't understand why God would doubt. Why would God assume that the Prophet might doubt that he could be among the doubters? Mantari means to doubt. You get what I mean? Why? By the way, this same verse, look at it word for word, is repeated in verse 147 of Al-Baqarah. If you remember, and I asked myself the same question, why would God assume that his prophet might doubt? So do not be among the doubters. The truth is from your Lord, so do not be among the doubters. Honestly, I don't know. Thank you very much.